Lewis Hamilton called it double standards. Max Verstappen dismissed it with a shrug. It's the same for everyone. 2 sentences, 2 world views. They frame not just the Mexican Grand Prix, but the modern fault line of Formula One, a sport still arguing over where justice ends and power begins. Hamilton's penalty was straightforward on paper. 10 seconds for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Yet it never felt straightforward. In the same breath that saw Verstappen and Leclerc skip across the Turn 1 grass without consequence, Hamilton's cut at Turn 4 was judged worthy of sanction. George Russell's fury on the radio was immediate. Martin Brundle, analysing later, called it a clear miss. The FIA lost its bite. And yet, the irony was cruel. The man at the centre of it all, Verstappen, walked away from the chaos not as the villain but as the constant, from 5th on the grid to 3rd at the flag. Another podium. Another calm assertion that efficiency wins more races than emotion ever will. It was, depending on your bias, either another example of the system favouring the champion, or proof that he has learned to operate within it better than anyone else. In truth, it might be both. Before diving deeper into that pattern, how Red Bull turned volatility into art, how Hamilton's sense of justice has become a burden. If you're following this battle for meaning as much as for points, hit subscribe. Because the next few weeks will decide more than a title. They'll decide whose idea of Formula One survives. The opening corners in Mexico were chaos made flesh. 4 cars side by side, Verstappen squeezed left onto the curb, the RB21 bumping and bottoming like a rally car. He escaped across the runoff with Leclerc in tow. Behind them, Hamilton braked late, trying to reclaim the place he'd briefly owned through the opening complex. His tyres picked up dirt. His patience picked up a penalty. What followed was vintage Verstappen, relentless but unspectacular. He carved through, maintained 1 minute, 21.2 seconds lap after lap, the kind of precision that kills races quietly. Red Bull's Helmut Marko later admitted he had warned Max that morning. Think positively, keep the tyres alive, believe in the comeback. Nobody believed it, Marko smiled afterward. But Verstappen did, and the numbers say belief is measurable now. 104 points behind 5 races ago, 36 behind after Mexico. That was the statistic that mattered, not the one on the steward's sheet. And it's why Laurent Mekies, the man now running Red Bull, can afford to sound dispassionate. "We are not going to change our approach," he said. "The championship is nothing more than a consequence." That line could have come from Verstappen himself. It's not arrogance, it's detachment. The kind of mindset Hamilton once possessed in his Mercedes prime, when he could win without emotion and lose without panic. But somewhere between Abu Dhabi 2021 and now, that armour cracked. Where Verstappen now projects stillness, Hamilton projects indignation. His complaints about double standards were rooted in truth. The stewards have been erratic all season, yet they also exposed something deeper. A man still fighting to control a sport that no longer bends to his rhythm. Brundle's analysis cut sharper. He argued Verstappen's first corner shortcut should have been penalised. If you put your car there 4 abreast, you're going on the curb. Max had no intention of taking the corner. He even suggested a drive-through to set a deterrent. Russell echoed it from the cockpit. 3 cars cut the corner and keep their places. What are we doing? The paddock buzzed with old resentment, the kind that needs only one spark to recall 2021. But Verstappen himself looked unbothered. "That's racing," he said. "It's what we can do within the regulations." He was right in the narrow sense. The rules allowed discretion, and he knew exactly how much to use. It's a mastery of ambiguity that defines his generation. Drive to the letter, not the spirit, and dare the FIA to interpret you. The governing body rarely wins that contest. The pattern, though, extends beyond one weekend. Verstappen has reached 123 podiums from 229 starts, overtaking Sebastian Vettel and closing on Hamilton's record with surgical inevitability. His podium rate stands at 53.71%, 1/100th of a point shy of Hamilton's. Another podium in Brazil would tip the scales. The symbolism is obvious. A younger champion catching an older one not only in trophies but in statistical purity. He might even equal Schumacher's 5-title streak if this comeback holds. That possibility doesn't just haunt Hamilton, it reframes him. Once, he was the benchmark of dominance. Now he's the cautionary tale of what happens when dominance outlasts its context. And Verstappen, he is the context now. There's an eerie composure about him these days. Simon Lazenby of Sky F1 called him the most honest driver in the paddock. That's partly because he doesn't play the media game. No rehearsed answers. No deference to image. He doesn't need to. When you're 4-time champion at 28, the performance ends at the checkered flag. Away from the camera, he still confides in his father, Jos Verstappen, the man who built his career in sweat and silence. Max recently said Jos would make a really good team principal. Not out of sentimentality, but recognition. The technical intuition, the mechanical empathy, the obsessive control. They're the same traits Max now channels inside Red Bull. He has become his father's method, industrialized at scale. Helmut Marko sees it too. He compared this chase to Vettel's late-season surges in 2010 and 2012. We believe in it. Nerves of steel, no mistakes, nuances will decide it. That word, nuances, defines Verstappen's era. Where others crash through, he calibrates. Hamilton's reaction in Mexico was the opposite of nuance. It was raw, almost wounded. "I had a good start," he said, "but somehow I ended up third and nobody was penalised for cutting the track there." His logic was sound, but his tone gave him away. It wasn't strategy speaking, it was disbelief. The same disbelief that has crept in since his last title chance dissolved under a safety car in Abu Dhabi. George Russell's anger made more sense. He's still trying to climb, still testing boundaries. For Hamilton, it was existential. Every perceived injustice becomes another reminder that the system he once mastered no longer answers to him. Meanwhile, Verstappen turns even the same chaos into rhythm. His Red Bull doesn't always start as the fastest anymore. McLaren's resurgence has changed that. Yet he maximizes what remains. In Mexico, he finished 30 seconds behind Lando Norris, but the context matters. He started 5th, salvaged 3rd, and extended his podium streak. Efficiency again. Peter Windsor put it bluntly. A Verstappen title would be massive for Liberty Media, for Wall Street, for everything. The commercial weight of his success mirrors Hamilton's once, but without the cultural friction. Verstappen is easier to market because he doesn't ask to be understood. He just wins. And that's where Formula One finds itself trapped, between a driver who still wants the sport to make moral sense and one who accepts that it never will. The FIA's inconsistency feeds that tension. Every stewarding decision becomes a referendum on who the sport belongs to. But while Hamilton and Russell voice outrage, Verstappen and Red Bull quietly accumulate. Mecky's tone after Mexico, cool, precise, managerial, was almost unsettling. "We weren't as strong here," he said, "but we extract what we can." Whether we're close or far, the process stays the same. It's the language of inevitability. Guenther Steiner, watching from the sidelines, imagined his dream team. "I would take Max and a rookie, maybe Gabriel Bortoleto." With Newey designing and Mercedes' structure, even hypothetically, Verstappen sits at the centre of fantasy engineering projects. He has become the default setting of success. In the end, Mexico told a story less about penalties than about posture. Hamilton shouted for fairness. Verstappen demonstrated function. The Dutchman's silence was not indifference but understanding. In modern Formula One, perception management is wasted motion. The stopwatch, not the statement, defines justice. That doesn't make him innocent. Brundle was right to call out the leniency, Russell right to protest, but the truth is simpler and colder. Verstappen no longer needs the FIA's favour to look untouchable. He just needs everyone else to keep losing their composure. 4 races remain. The gap to Norris is small enough to tempt, large enough to punish a single mistake. The numbers suggest another Red Bull miracle, another season rescued from chaos. But there's a deeper question floating beneath the surface, one that statistics can't answer. If Formula One keeps rewarding the driver who bends within the system rather than challenges it, what kind of champion does it really want?